Hello there, you're watching Nightline. I'm Anita. The top stories. 4 suspected robbers killed in shooting following high-speed car chase in Sungai Buloh. And Christmas celebrated on moderate scale in Malaysia and across the world. We begin with our headlining story. 4 men believed to have been involved in a robbery at a house in Rawang were shot dead by police following a car chase with police in Sungai Buloh, Selangor at about noon on Friday. Authorities were forced to open fire on them to save a food delivery rider who was struck and dragged under the suspect's car. In the incident, police said the suspects in their 20s were believed to have robbed a house in Taman Pelangi, Rawang earlier at 12:10 p.m. and fled in a Perodua Axia. The car was then spotted near the Sungai Buloh Hospital at 1 p.m. and a chase ensued until Jalan Kuala Selangor. The suspects then knocked down a female food delivery rider before reversing their car and running over the victim again as the car was blocked.
Salah seorang keluar dengan senjata parang, menyebabkan kita terpaksa melepaskan tembakan. Dan pada peringkat yang pertama, bila dia melanggar kali kedua motosikal Grab tu, dia telah menyeret pemandu penunggang Grab, menggilis dan menyeret penunggang Grab beberapa meter. Dan pada masa itu juga kita bagi menyelamatkan pemandu Grab, penunggang Grab ni, kita juga telah melepaskan tembakan.
Checks revealed the suspects, who were all killed in the shooting, were wanted by the police as they were believed to be involved in over 50 robbery cases in the state since early this year. 2 of them were also wanted for evading a restraining order under the Prevention of Crime Act. The police also uncovered several weapons and stolen items from the suspect's car. The case was being investigated under Section 307 of the Penal Code. The injured rider was taken to Sungai Buloh Hospital for treatment. Malaysians celebrated Christmas on Friday on a moderate scale and in the spirit of goodwill, in accordance with the new normal to curb the spread of COVID-19. As opposed to previous years, this year, Christians were only allowed to attend churches only in limited capacity, and there were no gatherings nor open houses to celebrate the festivities. A survey around the Klang Valley saw Malaysians gather at several churches, albeit in small groups in accordance with the new normal. Churchgoers were seen arriving as early as 8 a.m. for a religious service, and most spent around only 15 minutes before returning straight home.
Ini tempat yang suci, dan bila masa saya datang ke tempat sini, memang saya rasa hati lega sikit bersama dengan anak lagi. Ini anak yang akhir sekali. Dia baru lahir 2 bulan. So saya nak dia rasa dia punya tempat sekali lah.
Although on a much smaller scale than what they are used to, most were grateful to be able to celebrate Christmas morning at their local church, except for areas that had been placed under the Enhanced Movement Control Order, EMCO. All activities must be done in compliance with the standard operating procedures set by the relevant authorities.
Supaya ke church sama juga mereka macam menitibaratkan pasal penjagaan sosial, and then dalam masa yang sama kita orang tak boleh nak macam bersempit, maksudnya dia kena bagi ruang lah. So normally before this kita orang boleh pergi dengan banyak kawan, so sekarang ni kita orang kena separate everything.
No large-scale open houses were held, as visits were only allowed with limited number of guests comprising only close family members. In Sabah, church attendees at St. Michael's Church in Sandakan were seen adhering closely to the stipulated SOPs set by authorities, such as wearing face masks, undergoing temperature checks and registering their attendance using the MySejahtera application.
Kita masih perlu merayakan Christmas dengan meriah, dengan SOP yang baru. Ya, tapi pada masa yang sama kita juga perlu jaga satu sama lain. Ya, saya selalu katakan stay safe, stay strong, dan juga kita perlu stay joyful juga lah.
Church attendance this year has been limited to only 30 people at a time, or 50% of the church's capacity. However, for the ease of those who were not able to attend, the service was also streamed online through social media sites such as Facebook and Instagram.
Dalam musim pandemik ini kita tidak perlu itulah, kita tidak perlu ramai, kumpul ramai-ramai, terlalu ramai dan itu pesanan buat semua. Biarlah kita menjadikan Christmas pada tahun ini sesuatu yang bermakna.
Pertama sekali adalah patuhi SOP yang telah ditetapkan oleh pihak kerajaan. Kemudian yang kedua, mungkin ada di antara kita yang balik kampung. Harap semuanya perjalanan dalam keadaan yang baiklah dan selamat sampai di tempat masing-masing.
The 132-year-old church in Sandakan was built by New Zealander Henry Elton in 1888. The COVID-19 pandemic has taken its toll on Malaysians all around the country. This is especially so for the marginalised and underprivileged communities, like those in children's homes, as donations and aid have decreased this year due to the pandemic. However, celebrating in the new normal does not mean it should be any less festive. No doubt this year's Christmas celebrations are certainly very different than years past, as Malaysians celebrate the festivities in the new normal due to COVID-19. Under usual circumstances, the children at Rumah Hope, a sanctuary for underprivileged children, would celebrate Christmas at the home itself, which would also be open to visitors who wish to come and spend time with the children, as well as donate gifts. However, this year Rumah Hope understandably had to make some adjustments.
The parents are very concerned of the children's well-being, their health and all that. So as concerned parents, we are also like, okay, we would like the children to be with you also at this period of time, since the children have not gone back for quite some time during the pandemic itself, because they were with us. And then we did not want them to mix with people out there so that they are not affected in any way. So this is a golden opportunity for them to also spend time with their families. So all the children have gone back, except for our 5 kids who are sitting for SPM. Because of the condition that is happening around us right now, it's quite dangerous. So we want to just gear them up for their exams, and we have given them this assurance that once the exams are over, they've got 3 months break before the results are released. They can actually go back and spend time with their families also.
Weekdays are typically filled with schooling and things related to their studies, whereas weekends and holidays provide time for extra activities.
So holiday times, they will wake up late, like 8 o'clock. And probably sometimes visitors will come and visit our home and with the program. And sometimes every Saturday they will go out for the activities class, dance class, cooking class.
As the number of visitors have decreased in line with physical distancing and many choosing to stay at home whenever possible, the number of donations have also paled in comparison to previous years. The chairman of Rumah Hope is hoping that the public will come forward to support his home, especially during the festive period.
It has dropped really badly. We used to get like 4, 5, 8,000. Sometimes during festive, we'll get a little bit more. But during the pandemic, when it started in April, we were only getting about 700 or 800, which is even insufficient to pay our 12 full-time staff at Rumah Hope. But thank God, as the days went by and as we started informing people about it, people were ready to help out also at the same time. So the public has been of great help, and we thank God for that.
Matthew also said that the home has been coping by pushing one of its fundraising initiatives called the Rumah Hope Calendar Project, as they sell their in-house calendars at a minimum of 10 ringgit. The Rumah Hope calendars are filled with a compilation of the children's art and were designed by one of the kids who recently completed a course in graphic design at Sunway University. Rumah Hope was established in 1994 and is currently located in Paramount Garden, housing a total of 54 children. Meanwhile, as Christmas festivities, traditions around the world may have been compromised by COVID-19 restrictions, hundreds of millions across the globe are still doing their best to celebrate a pared-down version of a holiday, which has been typically marked by travel and large gatherings in previous years. In the Vatican City, Pope Francis officiated the loneliest Mass to respect the curfew due to the pandemic, involving fewer than 200 masked faithful, mostly employees of the tiny state of Vatican City. The Mass, which is traditionally held at midnight, had been moved forward by 2 hours to 7:30 p.m. local time to meet Italy's curfew rules. Before the pandemic hit, several thousands of faithfuls and tourists had obtained precious tickets to attend the papal Mass. Over in France, wearing hard hats and protective suits, the choir of Notre Dame Cathedral sang inside the medieval Paris landmark for the first time since last year's devastating fire for a special Christmas Eve concert without the presence of the public. Accompanied by an acclaimed violinist, a rented organ and a soprano soloist, 20 singers performed beneath the cathedral's stained glass windows amid the darkened church, which is transitioning from being a precarious hazardous cleanup operation to becoming a massive reconstruction site. In Russia's capital, Moscow, Muscovites enjoyed a festive atmosphere outside the Kremlin on Christmas Eve after Russia lifted lockdown restrictions for the festive period. Moscow residents took joy in walking across decorated streets and squares and posing for pictures with Christmas trees and lighting up sparklers. It comes in contrast to other parts of Europe celebrating the holiday under tougher restrictions. Meanwhile, in the United States, Cardinal Wilton Gregory, the Archbishop of Washington, D.C., led a Christmas Eve Mass at the Cathedral of St. Matthew the Apostle, with a small, socially distant group of faithful in attendance. The ceremony was limited this year, in line with measures to contain the spread of the coronavirus. Over in South Korea, churches across the nation stood largely empty with worshippers congregating online as the country reported a new daily caseload record. In Seoul, the well-known Yeouido Full Gospel Church, which is usually packed with 10,000 faithful, was only able to welcome 15 staff and choir members due to the restriction imposed by the government to curb the COVID-19 outbreak. The Health Ministry has confirmed that the new COVID-19 strain reported in the United Kingdom has not been detected in Malaysia. Health Director General Tan Sri Dr. Noor Hisham Abdullahs said, despite this, the ministry will continue to be vigilant with various measures already put in place to prevent the spread of the new variant to Malaysia. According to Tan Sri Dr. Noor Hisham in a Facebook post on Friday, the Institute of Medical Research, IMR, is keeping a lookout for the variant by continuously performing whole genome sequencing. He added the new variant, dubbed SARS-CoV VUI 2020-12/01, was observed to have a 70% increase in transmissibility rate and a threefold increase in cases in the 14-day notification period. The Health Director General further said the IMR, the National Institutes of Health and the Ministry had conducted analysis on more than 120 SARS-CoV-2 full genome sequences from clinical samples from the first wave until the recent third wave of COVID-19 cases in Malaysia. He also said, based on the analysis, apart from the most prominent spike mutation of D614G, they are now seeing another variant, A701V, which was first detected in the Binting Lahad Datu cluster and had subsequently spread to almost all clusters, including in Peninsular Malaysia and Sabah. Tan Sri Dr. Noor Hisham also pointed out that the A701V variant is now co-circulating with the D614G strain as a result of the increase of COVID-19 cases during the third wave in Malaysia and a number of other countries. As most clusters have this mutation, the presence of the A701V strain may have given the virus an added advantage in becoming more dominant, suggesting better transmissibility. British scientists had on December 19th come to an early conclusion that the virus had mutated to change the structure of the so-called spike protein on its surface, subsequently increasing the protein's ability to bind to human cells and making it more infectious. Later in the day, the Health Director General announced that the nation reported 1,247 COVID-19 cases and 3 deaths in the past 24 hours, bringing total cases to 101,565. Tan Sri Dr. Noor Hisham Abdullah in a statement said there were 1,441 recoveries, bringing the total number of those discharged to 82,540. Selangor continues to report the highest number of new cases, with 461 cases, followed by Sabah, with 225 cases, and Johor, 205 cases. Whereas Kuala Lumpur notes 140 cases, Negeri Sembilan 89, and Perak 55. There were 3 COVID-19 related deaths in the 24 hours up to Friday noon, raising the country's death toll to 449, as mentioned earlier. 4 new clusters have emerged in the country. The Cassia Diamond cluster was detected in Selangor and Pulau Pinang, while the Pompot cluster involved the district of Kota Belud and Kudat in Sabah. Meanwhile, 2 new workplace clusters were the Tapak Bina Kiara and Tapak Bina Perkasa clusters, both in Kuala Lumpur. The Enhanced Movement Control Order EMCO will be enforced at the Westlight Workers' Dormitory in Taman Perindustrian Tampoi Jaya, Johor Bahru from Saturday. Senior Minister for Security Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri Yaakob, in a statement on Friday, said the workers' dormitory will be placed under EMCO for 14 days until January 8th next year. He also said the EMCO enforcement follows the sudden rise in positive COVID-19 cases detected by the Health Ministry at the premises following 3 days of screening from December 21st to 23rd. The senior minister added, based on the results of the screening, 115 of the dormitory tested positive, all of whom are foreign workers. The EMCO, which will involve 231 housing units with a total of 3,116 residents. A total of 48 individuals and companies received the Music Digital Content Fund, DKD, amounting to 5.54 million ringgit for 54 music industry projects. Communications and Multimedia Minister Datuk Saifuddin Abdullah said the Music DKD was a government initiative aimed at boosting the development of the local music industry amid the COVID-19 pandemic.
Matlamat kita jangka pendek nak memberi peluang kepada para pemuzik untuk berkarya, apalagi dalam zaman COVID-19 ni. Dah lama mereka tak berkarya, ramai yang tak buat show dan sebagainya, tapi ini untuk menghasilkan muzik yang baru, dan ini sebagai langkah awal untuk projek-projek lain yang lebih besar.
He said this after virtually presenting an offer letter to the recipients of the Music DKD in Putrajaya. Among the recipients of the Music DKD who participated in the virtual video conference were composer Muhammad Azhar Abu Bakar, better known as Azmir, singer Dayang Nur Faiza, alternative rock band Estranged, and Nasheed group In Team. Datuk Saifuddin said the 54 projects were selected based on the demos and proposal papers submitted, as well as the background of the recipients. 25 projects were selected under the Micro Fund, 8 projects under the Marketing Fund, and 21 projects under the Ecosystem Fund. Yang di-Pertuan Agong Al-Sultan Abdullah Riayatuddin Al-Mustafa Billah Shah had expressed satisfaction with the visit made at the invitation of the Crown Prince of the Emirate of Abu Dhabi, Sheikh Mohammed Zayed Al Nahyan, which ended on Friday. Controller of the Royal Household of Istana Negara, Dato Ahmad Fadil Shamsuddin, said in a statement, the special visit is the third to the UAE for Al-Sultan Abdullah, since being installed as the 16th Yang di-Pertuan Agong. During the visit, Al-Sultan Abdullah granted an audience to UAE's Minister of Health and Prevention, Dr. Abdul Rahman Mohammed Al-Awaid. The King had also expressed his appreciation to the UAE government for its intention to contribute COVID-19 vaccines for purposes that include conducting clinical research in Malaysia. The Yang di-Pertuan Agong is scheduled to arrive in Malaysia on Saturday and would undergo COVID-19 screening before returning home and upon arrival. It is also understood that the King would also undergo self-quarantine, as stipulated by the Health Ministry. Next to come on Nightline, 3 killed after inhaling gas at sewage plant. Do stay tuned. Back. Thanks for staying with us. Former Johor State Assembly Speaker Tan Sri Muhammad Aziz was laid to rest at the Bukit Alif Muslim Cemetery in Johor Bahru at about 10 a.m. on Friday. 80-year-old Tan Sri Muhammad breathed his last at the Sultan Ismail Hospital at 9:50 p.m. a day earlier due to kidney failure. His remains were earlier taken to his house at Taman Nongchik in Johor Bahru. Among those who paid their last respects were Johor Menteri Besar Dato' Hasni Mohamad, State Secretary Dato' Azmi Rohani, State Agriculture, Agri-Based Industry and Rural Development Committee Chairman Dato' Shamsul Bari Jamali, as well as State Housing and Local Government Committee Chairman Ayub Jamil. Tan Sri Muhammad was State Speaker from 2013 to year 2018. He was UMNO Permanent Deputy Chairman from 2009 until 2017 and was a former Sri Gading Member of Parliament. 3 men, including a Bangladeshi national, died from gas inhalation at a sewage plant in Pantai Dalam, Kuala Lumpur on Friday. The City Fire and Rescue Department said in the 2:40 p.m. incident, the victims, who were cleaning contractors, were carrying out works inside a tank. 40 personnel from Pantai, Jalan Hang Tuah and Jalan Tun Razak fire and rescue stations, including a hazmat team, were deployed to the scene after the department was alerted to the incident. Upon arrival, they found that 4 people were still inside the tank, while 2 other workers managed to escape before rescuers arrived. It was believed that the victims suffered breathing difficulties after inhaling hazardous fumes. Only one of them managed to be rescued before being rushed to a hospital. The 3 bodies were handed over to the police for further action. A factory in Gua Musang, Kelantan that has been processing charcoal illegally over the last 8 months was raided by the State Forestry Department recently. State Forestry Director Abdullahs Abu Samah, in a media conference at the scene on Friday, said authorities raided the premises after finding it had been operating without a license, following a tip-off from the public. In the operation on Wednesday, the enforcement officers also seized more than 130 tons of high-quality charcoal, worth about 500,000 ringgit. No one was arrested in the 11:30 a.m. operation at the Gua Musang industrial area, as the factory's management had cooperated with the department officers. However, the operator of the factory would be called soon for questioning. Closer inspections revealed a number of boxes, gunny sacks and iron baskets containing the charcoal, all weighing about 130 tons. Initial investigations also showed that the charcoal was being prepared for export to countries such as Australia, Kuwait and Turkey, as well as the local market. The factory was then sealed together with 77 furnaces built at the premises and machinery used to transport the charcoal. Coming up after this break, South Korea sees record 4-digit COVID-19 surge. This and more stories from the foreign front right after this breather. We're back with news on the foreign front. Britain is set for a new chapter Friday after securing a hard-fought post-Brexit trade deal with the European Union, as EU envoys awaited a briefing on an accord reached only after months of tortuous negotiations. EU leaders, the European Parliament and the UK Parliament all need to now approve the agreement on their own come January 1st. It is understood that British lawmakers will debate the legislation on December 30th, with the opposition Labour Party already assuring that it will back the government's deal. However, major changes to the deal are inevitable as Britain definitively quits the EU's single market and free movement with the bloc comes to an end. After nearly half a century of integration, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson hailed Thursday's agreement as a new beginning for the UK in its relationship with its European neighbours. But the fishing industry said it had been sacrificed by the Prime Minister in order to get a deal. A neighbouring country, Indonesia, recorded its biggest daily rise in COVID-19 deaths, with 258 fatalities, taking the total to 20,847. Data by the country's health ministry showed the coronavirus infections increased by 7,259, bringing the number of cases to 700,097. Indonesia has the highest coronavirus caseload and death toll in Southeast Asia. Christmas celebrations in Indonesia, meanwhile, were a low-key affair after the Indonesian government imposed a ban on large gatherings during Christmas and New Year's Eve earlier this month. Churches are limited to only 50 Christians. About 10% of the population are Christians. South Korea plans to discuss whether it needs to further tighten distancing rules this weekend, as the current curbs fail to reverse a resurgence in outbreaks, with the daily COVID-19 count hitting another high on Friday by 1,237 new cases. The Korea Disease Control and Prevention Agency said 70% of the fresh cases came from Greater Seoul area, home to half the country's 52 million people. Greater Seoul is currently under level 2.5 restrictions, the second highest in the nation's 5-tier system. Daily numbers have been hovering at record levels over the past few weeks at around 1,000, but the government has been resisting calls for imposing the toughest level 3, at least for the Greater Seoul area, due to economic concerns, calling this a last resort. With the latest figures, the national tally of confirmed cases grew to 54,770, with 17 additional deaths, bringing the total to 773. Looks like that's it for Nightline. this time around at least. In Thailand, thousands of beautiful sunflowers in full bloom produced a stunning golden carpet covering the grass at the Rodfai Park in the capital Bangkok, attracting hundreds of visitors to enjoy the magnificent view. There's a little hope and sunshine for the end of this year. With that, I'm Anita. Thank you for tuning in, and be well, Malaysia.